Harry's wife. Why do whites hate her and blacks love her? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Undoubtedly you've been drawn here by that somewhat contentious title. Not one of my making. It's what's lifted from an opinion piece in relation to Harry's wife. We all know that Harry's wife repeatedly plays the race card, which is quite entertaining given the fact that she's always maintained, as per her CV, her resume, that she's Caucasian, that she has done her best to eradicate the black features that she has, namely her curly frizzy hair and the shape of her nose, by always having her hair flattened and straightened, and by having clear plastic surgery to alter the shape of her nose, such as the pride that she has for the aspects of her that are of black heritage. It's interesting. Of course, there are some people that do question her in that regard, but there are others who let that pass. If you're so proud of being mixed race, why are you altering the way that you look? Of course, she does so because her narcissism dictates that it determines that the most appropriate way for her to pose and present herself is as a white person. Indeed, most people, if asked, what race do you think she is, would have probably said white, possibly even Hispanic. Very few people would recognise that she was black/mixed race. Most people aren't concerned with that. Most people find it irrelevant. What is relevant, of course, is her behaviour. Because narcissists, whether they're white, black, yellow, brown, purple, wherever they might come from, whichever country of origin they are, whatever race, ethnicity, creed they have, whatever religion they subscribe to, they're still narcissists. Narcissists come in all shapes and sizes, colours, religions, attitudes and approaches. And this channel is all about narcissism and her narcissism. But there are those, of course, that utilise her as some form of champion of race, something that she's quite content to go along with when it suits her, demonstrating her chameleon nature. The opinion piece by somebody called Tudor, and I'm pleased to see that it's not Yaya Toure, that bastion of bulldozing football excellence that once played for Manchester City, nor his quieter but effective brother Colo, but somebody called Tudor, who writes in something called thegrio.com. No idea what that is, haven't come across it before, but I suspect that it is a blog, a form of digital media that deals with matters of race. And Touré's heading is, why is Harry's wife hated by so many white people and beloved by so many black people? Well, first of all, one would take issue with that headline of itself. Harry's wife isn't hated by so many white people. She's disliked by many white people, but she's also disliked by a lot of black and brown people and mixed race people because of her behaviour, because that's what it all comes down to, her behaviour. But let's find out what Tudor has to write and to see if Tudor is correct in the assertions that are being made, or is this somebody else again blinded to her narcissism. There's an editor's note that heads it up, which shows perhaps the hot potato by which this is, states the following article is an op-ed, and the views expressed are the author's own. The article states, when I see Harry's wife, I see a beautiful, graceful, elegant woman who's navigating a very tricky situation in the best way she knows how. Okay. Now, this certainly augurs unwell, demonstrating that you're clueless as to what she is. But he continues, she's an American commoner who suddenly became British royalty, only to be so viciously criticised by all sorts of people, so much so that she feels it's all put her mental health and even her life in danger. Delusion, pity play. She's also a black woman who says blackness hasn't been a big part of her life until recent years. She says she wasn't treated as a minority as a child, which I think means no one was ever mean to me because I'm black. But after she entered the royal family, race became a huge issue in her life, and many people were mean to her precisely because she's black. And I'd be interested to see the evidence of that. Undoubtedly, there are some knuckle-draggers that have made race an issue, but the vast majority of evidence demonstrates that they have been not mean to her, they've criticised her because of her behaviour. So there's a very small percentage, the knuckle-draggers, who've been mean to her because she's black. Some people have been critical of her, not mean, critical of her, And again, it's nothing to do with her blackness or otherwiseness. It's all to do with her behaviour. The article continues, and yet her ascendance, can we call it that? Maybe no. Let's say her move into the royal family was exciting and even inspiring for many black Brits and black Americans because it validated black female beauty. Well, that would all be very well if she identified as black, but she didn't until she decided it was useful for her in terms of certain control over people and manipulating them. And it represented a crack in a glass ceiling that many never thought would be touched. The British royal family represents the whitest of white people. Strange that, isn't it, given that the royal family came from white people that then married other white people that continued to give birth to white people. That tends to be how it works. It isn't the case that somebody came along and said, hello, I'm black, can I join the royal family? And they say, no, you can't. We don't want any black people in the royal family. F off. And as you know, there are a couple of black people that are married into the royal family anyway. But the royal family is bound to be white because it was founded on being white. And therefore, white people married white people and then had white children. Not difficult to get your head round, really, is it? Anyway, the British royal family represents the whitest of white people. For many, they are the embodiment of white superiority. To have a black person join them changed the game. Many people see Harry's wife quite differently than I do. For some reason, she is widely hated, especially in England, but also by many white Americans too. When I Googled to figure out why Harry's wife is so hated, I was on the lookout for some horrible things she'd done to merit all the hate. I mean, famous people in England, adult men, are writing stuff like dreaming of her being paraded naked through British streets while the crowds chant, "Shame," and throw lumps of excrement at her. That column by Jeremy Clarkson has been removed and he's apologised for it, but he also said what he believed and his editor saw fit to publish it. What has Harry's wife done to deserve widespread attacks and hatred? Had I missed some horrific news story about her? Did she drink, drive, and murder someone? Did she say, hey, Hitler maybe wasn't a bad guy? I mean, the amount of hatred she gets is greater than the hate that many people who've done truly horrible things get. What's going on? Well, I can help you with that, Torre. It's down to a number of things. First of all, she's a rampant hypocrite. She tells lies, and she's manipulative. Now, if she was all of those things but did it quietly, away from public view, very few people would have anything to say about her. But the problem is that she has come along, and she will not fucking go away. That she keeps popping up in people's faces, ensuring she gets the column inches. That she makes programs, and she bleats, I want privacy, and then doesn't do anything that accords with that. So the dislike that people have for her is based upon the fact of the way that she has behaved towards people, the way that she behaved towards Prince Philip, the way that she behaved towards the late Queen Elizabeth, the way that she has treated Harry in terms of pulling away from his family, the repeated lies that she's told, the obsession with making money, the many revisions of history that she's engaged in. And she does all of this blatantly and in your face, utilising, of course, the media to pump it forward. Furthermore, she engages in rampant pity plays, always playing the victim, always maintaining that she's the one that's picked on. So for someone to come along and wonder what truly horrible things that she's done is rather naive and disingenuous. The article continues. I went down a rabbit hole and found a lot of flimsy excuses, stuff that sounds like people decided to hate her and then looked for reasons why. They're mad that she held hands with her husband at the Queen's funeral. Too much PDA. She cried at the funeral. She's fake sad. Prince Harry held an umbrella for her at some event. She's stealing his spotlight. She wore a dress that royals are not supposed to wear. Why do you care about their arcane rules? She was mean to some unseen person in some out-of-context moment we saw a snippet on the internet. She's rich, but she cares about the poor and the environment, which makes her a hypocrite. She curtsies wrong. She's controlling poor Harry. She's fame-hungry. I threw all that balderdash out because all the smokescreen for what's really going on here. Those are the things that are socially acceptable to say, but they're not the real problem. Again, the author misses out a huge amount of her behaviour, which is problematic as a consequence of her narcissism. The article continues. Yes, of course, part of the real problem is race. Harry's wife's entering the whitest of the globe's white family, thus forcing people to see black and white as equals, is extremely frightening for people who value whiteness and view the royals as an important symbol of it. When Harry's wife took blackness into that family, by coming along with her white CV, of course, she showed the world that white people are not a superior race. A black person can be their equal. That eats at the soul of some people. Royals are supposed to only marry other royals, thus feeding the notion of their inherent specialness. Again, the author misses out on things such as those royal families in Africa that were black royal families that were quite content to sell their people, having them loaded up in cages waiting on the beach for the white slave traders. Any comment on that, Toure? Harry's wife circumvented all of that, he writes, and the notion that she broke the rules is very triggering to people who care about such things. R.S. Locke, a black royal watcher, explained it this way in 2021. A biracial woman enters the top of the pyramid by marriage, negating both the birth and blood requirements society had previously been told were preconditions. Because she lacks those prerequisites, she's considered unworthy. Because she's proud of her own heritage and regards herself as equal to others at the top of the pyramid, she's considered ungrateful. She's proud of her own heritage. What? By always straightening her hair, lightening her skin, and having her nose changed. Funny version of being proud of her own heritage, if you ask me. That, of course, is the chameleon nature of the narcissist. The fact to say that she negated both the birth and blood requirements that were told were preconditions, not at all. She was welcomed into the family. She wasn't considered unworthy by lacking birth and blood requirements. She's disliked because of her behaviour. But yet again, we have another author who's completely unable to recognise this. He continues, they hated her from the beginning because she subverted the all-important rules. Then, as the so-called ritual hazing of Harry's wife went on, Kate Middleton never got that treatment, but whatever. Again, incorrect. Kate Middleton was subjected to hateful comments, intrusive observations, weighty Katie. Okay, the level of it might not be the same as that of Harry's wife, but that's again down to a behavioural response. But to say that Kate Middleton didn't get that treatment, again, is wrong. The royal family never stepped in. This is an important part of why Harry's wife hatred grew from a spark into a raging fire. When the media said racist things, the family never stood up for her. Why should they? Why should they stand up for someone who has repeatedly and systematically condemned them, lied about them, and smeared them? Would you, Toure, stand up for somebody who has made it their mission to talk shit about you? I suspect that you would not. The royal family did step in. They gave her a staff of 14 to help her integrate. Why hasn't her husband stepped in? Why hasn't he done something? To expect the royal family to defend her, given her behaviour, is quite frankly ridiculous. He continues, they've never said that a negative public comment about her is unacceptable, and their silence has tacitly told the British media that attacking her is fine. Or rather, isn't it the case, Toure, that they've had enough of being attacked by her, and therefore they're saying, we're just going to ignore her, and she can have a dose of her own medicine? In 2019, Locke wrote, the palace was complicit in its silence then and now. At best, it was an implicit endorsement of the press abuse, and at worst, Prince William's decision to reach out to senior figures in the media triggered an open season on Harry and Harry's wife, allowing the royal family to deflect from far greater scandals. Yes, but this all came after what? Harry's wife repeated lies in the Oprah interview, her behaviour around Prince Philip's demise, the comments around Services Universal being sarcastic about the Queen. Harry's wife was in there first, but of course her narcissism doesn't let her see that way because she is the perpetual victim. The article continues, earlier this year, William declared racist abuse, whether on the pitch and the stands or in social media, as despicable and must stop now. 87 words to rightfully defend English soccer players. But when his mixed-race nephew was likened to a chimpanzee by a British radio host, he had none. The family had been silent for a reason. It's helpful to have the media fixate their ire on her rather than someone who has done something really bad and truly brought shame on the family, like, say, Jeffrey Epstein's friend, Prince Andrew. But again, Jeffrey Epstein's friend, Prince Andrew, has been roundly and rightfully condemned. But he doesn't continue to stick himself on chat shows, doesn't continue to lambast his own family, doesn't try and isolate somebody from that family. There's a huge difference, which again Toure fails to address. But I still don't understand this part, he writes. Harry's wife was hated by the media and regular Brits while she was living in England and working as a royal, but then she left and moved to America and stepped away from royal life. Yes, she stepped away from royal life, but she didn't step away from celebrity, did she? Wouldn't that solve the problem? Well, no, it wouldn't, because she doesn't fucking shut up. She's no longer a royal. Really? Why is she using the title again, Tudor? Move along. Why all still mad? Ah, there we are. The cry of a sugar. Why all still mad? People are still mad because of her hypocrisy, because of her behaviour, because of the way that her narcissism functions. But since she left the family, the hate has only increased. Why? For one thing, her leaving the family rocks the notion that being in the family is the ultimate achievement in life. Many British people put value in the royal family, and for her to walk away from it makes it seem less important, so that she's upending their entire value system. That holds the royals up on a pedestal. This when people think she never deserved to be in the family at all because she's black, American and a commoner. I'm not sure why people are still, in 2022, putting so much value in the doing of things of the royal family or caring about who upholds their arbitrary rules, but here we are. But I think there's something more that's burning in the bitter souls of the Markle haters. It's not just that a black woman married into the family, it's that this black woman married the last son of the most beloved royal of the modern era, Princess Diana. Barking up the wrong tree here, matey. They loved her. They wept over her untimely death, and they watched the maturation of her sons as they grew up without a mother. They loved those boys, William and Harry, because they loved her, and she wasn't here to love them. It's almost like they watched over them for her. Diana is a critical part of the Harry's wife haters universe because to them she doesn't measure up to her husband's mother. She's not a selfless saint walking through minefields. She's not a victim. Diana left the family because of her husband's long-term infidelity. Harry's wife left the family in the media, said racist things about her, so selfish, running away to protect her mental health. But again, she is a victim. She plays the victim card repeatedly, over and over. Diana to them was everything a woman should be. Imagine the sweet, giving, nurturing nature of Mother Teresa in the body of a gorgeous blonde. Bit of an erroneous comparison using that narcissist, Mother Teresa, but there you are. Harry's wife to them has none of the qualities that made Diana so beloved. They know they can't say it because she's black, but that's in there. They can say publicly that she's not as graceful, not as beautiful, not as saintly as Diana, which are ultimately synonyms for she's not the soft, dainty, femme white lady we like to venerate. Or, Tudor, you could actually say she isn't Diana because she's a narcissist. I don't care to convince people who hate her, but I think now I can comprehend why they think that way. To them, Harry's wife is no Diana, yet she's married to Diana's son, and she's not good enough for him, so they're throwing virtual tomatoes at her. The royals are like a long-running soap opera, and the love they had for their long-suffering, tragically murdered Diana has become anger at her son's black American African wife. Diana was the big hero, so Harry's wife must be the big villain. But when I see Harry's wife, I remember my friend André Leon Talley, near the end of his life, raving with avuncular pride about her beauty and her grace. I recall young British schoolgirls at the beginning of their lives telling a CNN reporter that Harry's wife joining the royal family made them feel seen, and that is beautiful. Harry's wife is beloved by black folks, and she's making white people angry just because she's breathing. She must be doing something right. Well, I'll be interested to learn of your observations about this article, which, to my mind, gets it utterly wrong and continues with the divisiveness that embodies Harry's wife. She's not beloved by all black folks and she's not hated by all white people. Trying to make this about colour is disingenuous and perpetuates the racist behaviour that Harry's wife engages in. This is about her behaviour. This is about her narcissism. And people such as Tudor, writing as they do, really do not help the situation. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.